I am here with a special guest today, and we are going to be talking about the psoas, aka hip flexor. Alright, so I'm here with Mr. Ali Akbarian.
Hey, how's it going?
And we've been working together on and off for a little while over the few years that I've known Ali. So we first met back in CrossFit Feel Good days for me. Ali's still powering through CrossFit. And since then, he's just been on a health and fitness rampage is probably how I'd describe it. Very inspirational guy. You know, he's a busy man. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a business owner, he's a team leader. He is a CrossFitter, he is a marathon runner, he's just doing everything. So, you know, when you're on the go like this, body can take so much and things start to sort of play up a little bit. And, you know, Ali's a guy that's very in tune with these things nowadays, and so he does jump on it when it happens. And one of the things that came up for him lately is he started to feel tightness in what people sort of refer to as their hip flexor, which is this very deep muscle. So I've got my spine model here, and obviously there's no muscle on it, but we can sort of get an appreciation for what the hip flexor is. So the hip flexor typically is what we refer to it as, but it's the psoas muscle, and it's actually made up of two muscles, which is the psoas and the iliacus. And we have two of these in our body, so they come off, one off each side of the spine, and they actually come from the sides of our lower back, of our lumbar spine. It's a large muscle, the psoas, that comes down here, and it actually comes out and it inserts onto our thigh. So when we're talking about a hip flexor, it's because it's pulling the hip into flexion, so we're getting that action coming up. So we've also got a large muscle sitting here, which is the iliacus, and that forms the iliopsoas, or the hip flexor, along with the psoas. So both of these, it's a very big, powerful muscle. We've got one on each side. When that contracts, it's pulling this up towards us. So you could imagine when this muscle is tight and when it's short, it's actually going to be cranking on this lower back and pulling that in. So in people that have got like really chronic sort of low back issues, it's something that we look at. But also in people that are doing a lot of activities that involve this action at the hip. People that are involved in sports, working out, a lot of running, just any sort of repetitive action like that. And then also in people that are working at desks and spending a lot of time in this shortened position. So, throwing it over to Ali, tell us a little bit about how this manifested for you and what you sort of felt to make you want to take action on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks very much. So yeah, as Chris said, the hip flexor, well, I've noticed it throughout my life, and especially recently doing the fitness stuff, and focusing on it is very important and kind of connects the top and the bottom of your body together, really, and sort of it seems to be the key. And what Chris was saying before in terms of being busy and doing a lot, it's a good thing, but also can be a bit of a curse, because that's sort of what affected me a little bit. I was ignoring more of a long-term hip flexor issue. I always kind of knew there was something deep in there that was bothering me, but I was always busy, always charging, going, yeah, don't worry about it, just keep pushing through. And then I guess it all kind of fell apart for me. And then it did affect me in terms of my busyness, because when I did the marathon, which was the first time I attempted that, that's kind of, and I was on track to do, like I did a lot of training, on track to sort of do it in a certain time. And then about 2 hours into it, starting that day, just the hip flexors were feeling tight, and I tried to loosen them off, and yeah, about 2 hours into the run, they really hurt, and then it just shut the whole legs down, and especially this right leg, it just seized everything. And I still went on to finish the marathon in hell pain, but then what happened was I then couldn't really work for the next day. There was definitely no work. So then it literally made me bedridden. And then when I went back to the gym about 3-4 days later, I went to do a box jump, but I couldn't even do it, you know. So it was just, so then that was kind of like a really good wake up call, I guess, to say, hey, you need to do something about this. And it's kind kind of slapped you in the face. You want to do more of these marathons, and as I said to Chris before, I've probably found that I've hit a bit of a wall in terms of my speed of my running. Like I've been running and training to run for the last 2 years. And when I speak to other people that don't run, and I ask them about the pace that they run, they seem to run like almost a minute per kilometer faster than me, and I'm training all the time, and they're not. So I'm just like, why? Why is that? I think that's a big thing to do with that, and it's limiting me.
So then we sort of take a picture of that clinically, and so we start looking at the function of Ali's hips. So we do an assessment in this case, and particularly focusing on the hip flexors as part of that, and also of the quads as well, because that was something that really flagged as being as tight and short. So we're able to actually take some measurements of this stuff, and it correlates with Ali's history and with his symptoms, where we actually saw that the right side was a fair bit shorter than the left. And at that end range of hip extension, where we're lengthening it out, that's where he actually got some symptoms there as well. So it felt uncomfortable and tight and sort of cranked on the lower back a little bit. So, 3 weeks ago when we started working on this, we had a good baseline. We had some data to work with. We've treated that a couple of times. This is our third treatment since then. And probably after the first week, I think we didn't see a hell of a lot of change. But after that, we really saw it kind of kick into gear. And those tests got a lot better. But what's encouraging about this is that we're actually seeing it holding, and it's kind of sitting within that nice range. There's a little bit of fluctuation either way, which we'd kind of expect, but we're a fair way forward to where we started. And so now that's starting to translate into some of the activity. So if we sort of throw it back to what you're seeing now that you're back in the gym, what's kind of changing there?
Yeah, so, before I explain that, what I'll do is I'll explain, I guess, what I was doing beforehand. So, as I said, I've been doing the fitness, and I've actually been really, really good, and probably 80 or 90% of the time, every night, I stretch for about an hour. And then that was kind of causing me confusion, because I'm thinking, why aren't I getting that length? I'm still stretching every day. And then what I realized in coming and working with Chris was there needs to be more than just the stretching. You need to get into that tissue, and like as he's explained it to me, and really work those muscles and help release whatever you need to do. And actually it needs a bit of interception, not just being able to do it yourself. So that's I guess what I've found and learnt in this last process. And like a few weeks ago when I was doing as I said, I couldn't even do a box jump. That was post-marathon. And even before that, my box jumps were good, but they're always landing pretty heavy and hard. And I also struggled with getting pretty high compared to most other people when I've been training as much as some other people and so on. So and they've been able to jump a lot higher. And now what I found was this week we did a workout with box jump overs, and I was tracking fine. I was flying over the box. It was really quick. Once I was warm, not uncomfortable at all, and it made a massive difference. So it was really good. And I haven't run yet, but I'm excited to go out for a run now. So
awesome. I think this is a really nice example, which is why we wanted to just put this out there a little bit today. Just a little bit of tracking to be able to see that we're heading in the right direction, and then correlate that with some activity and stuff like that. Really kind of builds a nice picture where we can look back at over a few weeks' time and see that there's progress happening and see that things are moving in the right direction. It's just it's a pleasure to be able to help with that a little bit. So look, if anyone's got any questions about these things, we've really just covered off on a very small subsection today in terms of the psoas, and also the quad is the other thing that we've worked on with Ali in terms of getting some length back there. So we can do this same sort of thing in other regions of the body as well. So feel free to shoot through a message, ask any questions, please reach out and we'll see what we can do. So thank you for watching today. Thank you, sir, for doing this with me, and we'll see you next time.